What if you could launch a website, store data, and scale to thousands of users all without owning a single server? Well, that's the power of the cloud. And at the center of it all is Amazon Web Services, or AWS, like we know it, right? In this tech-driven world, AWS is the backbone of companies large, small, powering everything from simple blogs to global enterprise applications. So as more businesses shift to the cloud, the demand for skilled cloud engineers is skyrocketing. But here's the good news. You don't need to be a tech expert to get started if you want to get into the tech industry. So AWS makes it easier than ever for beginners to build, deploy, and manage applications. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate and also show you how to create a simple website step by step while introducing you to the key services that make it all possible within AWS. So let's dive right in. Understanding the building blocks. Before we jump into building, let's understand some of the core services that AWS offers. So think of these, for example, EC2 as your virtual computer in the cloud. It runs your applications just like your laptop or desktop. S3, on the other hand, is your online storage, perfect for saving images, files, or even videos. Then there's Route 53, which is a phone book for the internet, right? So helping users find your website by translating domain names into IP addresses. Now, when these services work together, you can easily launch and host a functional website in just a few steps. So for example, let me give you a demo, everything together, and build a simple WordPress website and how to install WordPress on AWS. First, I'm just going to go ahead and use a CloudFormation template and then demonstrate step by step how to actually use AWS and then launch the EC2 instance, work with CloudFormation templates, and then set up or initiate a WordPress website. So let's dive right into the demo. Welcome back. Super excited. Moving forward, in this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the CloudFormation and how to build up a stack, also work with a designer. And I'm going to be using a really simple example. The idea is to give you the flavor, the concept, as well as demonstration of how CloudFormation works, right? What templates are. I have been mentioning templates like YAML or JSON written templates that you can use to deploy all kinds of solutions right from a text file, right, written in YAML or JSON. So I'm just going to talk about the CloudFormation and then we'll jump right in and do a demo. In fact, I'm going to do hands-on, might as well. So let's jump right in. From within the AWS console, what you need to do is find the management and governance section. And within the management and governance section, you will see the CloudFormation. Now we have been working with, if I scroll down just a bit here before I begin, the developer tools, right? So we've deployed several applications, so you should be pretty comfortable with the CI/CD pipelines and all of the related concepts as well as the applications, because we've deployed about 3 different kinds of applications, serverless and with Beanstalk as well. And we've also taken a look at the IDEs as well, such as Cloud9, which is native AWS IDE, and Eclipse as well. Perfect. So let's scroll up. CloudFormation is just another way of deploying your entire solution, right? So let's click on CloudFormation. This will take you to the CloudFormation console page. And notice AWS has redesigned the CloudFormation console, okay? So if you've been using AWS in the past, you may see this a little differently. This is the newest version that we have at this point in time. Also, drift detection is now available. So what is drift detection? It simply allows you to detect whether the actual configuration of your particular stack has changed outside of CloudFormation or not. So for instance, you created a stack and then some changes were made to that particular stack or the files within the stack. So detect or drift detection will simply allow you to detect this. Now this is not available for all of the resources, okay? For instance, here are our existing stacks available. And notice we have our Elastic Beanstalk Java web app running on Elastic Beanstalk. This is our Spring Java app. We have another Spring Java app, but this is running on the serverless Lambda. And then we also have our PHP project. So all these are web apps that we have created for our code pipeline. And all three of these are running a complete, fully automated CI/CD pipeline. So within the stack, for instance, you'll notice the drift status here shows whether a stack has been drifted or not checked. So any status message that says not checked is out of scope essentially for drift detection, because it only allows you to detect the resource types that support drift detection. Let's take a look at those. So if I were to just navigate, hover over the status, and then choose or click on resource type, it's going to open up the documentation for us. And AWS provides the resources that support drift detection. And the following do support drift detection. And the reason I'm going through this is, of course, not from the exam perspective, but as DevOps engineer, you kind of need to know where to go and find the services that support. So we have the API gateway and all of the available resources. We have auto-scaling that supports drift. We have Cloud Trail, Cloud Watch supports drift. DynamoDB, EC2 instance, Amazon ECS, load balancing, IAM, IoT Lambda also supports drift, and then your S3 buckets and so forth. So these are just a small list of all of the services that actually support the drift detection. So keep this in mind. Great. So let's close this for now. Notice here we have not checked, right? So this means this stack is not detected by drift itself. So even if I were to have it run or detect drift, it's going to give me this warning, right? So it says it's drifted because things have changed, even though it's not supported. Great. So let's get back to our cloud formation. So I just wanted to clarify some of the basics here. Now to create a stack, a couple of ways you can do it. You can create or go to design template directly. In other words, do everything manually. Or under create stack, you can either create a new stack or you can create a change set for the new stack. So a change set is the same stack, but you're going to make some changes and then deploy it again. So let's go ahead and begin by creating a stack. As soon as I click on it, the first option is select a template. I'm going to specify the details next, choose some options, and then review before I actually begin to or actually create the stack. So select the template that describes the stack that you want to create. So what you need to do is two things that you can do. You can design a template. In other words, use AWS Cloud Formation Designer to create or modify an existing template. Or you can choose a template, of course written in JSON or YAML formatted text file, that describes the stack's resources and their properties. In other words, the configurations, right? So I could choose a sample template. If I click on the drop-down arrow, notice I have several options for a sample template. For instance, I could deploy a single instance sample on a WordPress blog that would deploy a WordPress blog for me right from this particular formatted text file written in JSON or YAML. Typically it's JSON, but you could convert it to YAML as well. So before I actually use the design template and we create our own simple custom template, let's go ahead and select WordPress blog just so that you can see the entire blog in Designer. The other options, by the way, before I click on this link to get to the Designer, you will notice that we have upload a template to S3 or specify the Amazon S3 template URL. That is if you have these options. But since we do not, I'm going to go ahead and just first show you the template designer for this WordPress blog. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And this is going to take us directly into the designer view where you would actually see all of the icons and the actual picture workflow, so to speak, that will do this for us. So here's the designer. I can, of course, make it bigger or smaller, the wheel on my mouse, or either way. So you'll notice that you see several dots, right? Next to this, we have a web server instance, and then we have a web server security group. And then on the bottom section, you'll see the template, right? Template has two tabs. One is components, for instance, and then the other one is template itself. And then on the resource type, the left navigation pane, we have all of these different resource types that are available that allow us to actually build our template, right? So I can drag and drop any one of these options onto the canvas and then start to link and design my own solution, right? And as soon as I make some changes on the canvas area, you'll notice the template is automatically updated. But before I actually drag and drop and demonstrate, let's take a look at and identify what these circles mean, right? So for instance, if I hover over any one of them, it will tell me the property, which is the security groups ID for this EC2 instance. This one is the property volumes. Then I have the image ID, I have the placement group, I have the EC2 host property, volume attachment, and again, I should be able to see all of these properties on the bottom here as well. Okay. For instance, the instance type here is the web server EC2 instance type, and that's the name of this. If I need to change this, for example, if I need to say web server ClayDesk instance type, the message that I get is designer is out of date, hit refresh, right? So all I do is just go up right, refresh the diagram, and this should change the name. So once I have this, I can, of course, by the way, drag any of these options anywhere on canvas area. And I can also link or unlink. So if I were to remove this link here, simply a dialog box appears. Are you sure you want to delete the link? I'm going to say OK. And if I need to create the link, I can simply go to this purple, right? A little magenta circle, not the blue ones, because blue ones are all properties. So I can simply say the web server depends on the security group. That's one option. I can remove this link again. Similarly, I can drag and say the web server security group depends on the web server. So you get the idea, right? You can design any options that you wish to. Refresh one more time, and we get back to where we were. Great. So once the links are created and based on your own requirement and you're satisfied with the template itself, you're good to go. So here, I can change the name of the web server, for example, for this property. Say ClayDesk web server, hit refresh, and this should, by the way, change the name. Although I get a message, specify a resource name, logical ID that contains only alphanumeric. So go ahead, refresh, and there we go. I just need to remove the spaces. And two formats are available. It's a little bigger so you can see the actual template, JSON or YAML. If I click on YAML, AWS will automatically convert the template to YAML format. Here, I can now scroll up, and it shows me that this is a template for the WordPress single instance blog that is going to be deployed. And it gives me all the parameters, instance type. If I scroll down, I will get the SSH location, DB name, DB user, DB password, DB root password. Once again, everything, all the areas that you need to deploy a WordPress blog are part of this template. You can, of course, write the entire template from scratch. You have certain developers or yourself, you're good at it, then go ahead. You can design the entire template based on your own requirement. Again, this is a template, right? So you need to, of course, make the required changes for you to deploy your own solution based on your own requirements or your company's requirements. Perfect. All right, so this is the how you deploy a WordPress blog. So once you're a designer, and if you're satisfied with this particular design, all you would have to do next is to create the stack. So if I were to go ahead and create the stack here, It's going to take me back to Cloud Formation. It's going to begin the stack formation. If the template is not valid, for instance, you will get a message. This is undefined resource web server. So click OK. And then you can correct the required area where it says undefined web server. So let me go ahead and scroll up. In order to fix this, I believe I changed the name, right? So let me go ahead and quickly change it back. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the actual change. And since it's looking for the web server, the original name, I'm going to revert back to that. Hit refresh. And then another thing that you can do is validate the template before you can actually start creating the stack. So if I were to now click on validate this particular template, it's going to go ahead and provide the validation for me. So now our template is valid. I'm going to go ahead and create the stack. So if I click on the create stack button, this is going to go ahead and launch and create the stack. It's also going to redirect us to the same page, right, where we actually selected the template in the first place. And this time it gives me the URL, right, for the fact that I need to specify an Amazon S3 template URL. So I'm just going to copy this for my own records and then click next. And then I can provide a stack name. I can provide the necessary DB name, password, for instance. So I can say WP ClayDesk blog, for instance, and then provide a password. Here's my root password, the DB user, and another name. The instance type is T2 small. I can choose others as well, right? This is our web server EC2 instance type. I can also provide the key name. So this is our key pair, right? So if you don't have it, you can always navigate to the console and create a key pair. So I'm just going to use the PHP web app key pair that I've created. You can also provide the IP address range if you have specific to your own project requirement. So you can SSH into and then use the EC2 instances. So I'm going to go click next for now. You can choose the IAM role that CloudFormation will use to create or modify or delete resources in the stack. And if you leave this blank or do not choose a role, it's just going to use the default permissions for your account. The rollback triggers enable us, the AWS CloudFormation, to monitor the state of the app. So if something doesn't go right, it's going to roll back all the changes. You can also choose CloudWatch. I'm going to talk about this a little later as well, where you can set triggers, create rules, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. You can review all of these options before you actually begin to create. So I'm going to go ahead and click create, and this is going to create the stack, but of course we get an error. It just says that DB password needs only alphanumeric, right? And I use symbols that were not alphanumeric, so I can go back previous one more time. And then here's my DB password, so I'm just going to use alphanumeric, right? Let's try it again. Next, and then create. So this is going to go ahead and create our spin up our stack for deploying the WordPress blog. So it's really a straightforward process. What you can do is you can kind of take a look at, once your stack is ready, it's going to show up here within this area. And I can refresh just to see that our WP ClayDesk blog, which is right here, has been created and it's in progress. Okay, so CloudFormation is a pretty powerful area where you can actually spin up your solutions based on your own templates. Now, of course, we use the existing sample template, right? So I quickly demonstrated this. In the next lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the manual way of designing your own template. And I think we're going to do an S3 bucket, just a fairly simple example. But this gives you an idea of a full walkthrough of simple deploying a ClayDesk blog using CloudFormation. Now, before I end, of course, I can click on this ClayDesk blog and take a look at all of the details, right? The good part that you need to know as DevOps engineers, that you can click on output, you can click on resources, right? And then events is nice because you can see exactly what is happening. If something goes wrong, you will see rollback, right? And it's going to delete all of the steps. Template is what I would like to have you take a look at. This is the template that was actually used to create this entire solution, which is deploying a WordPress blog on an EC2 instance. So if you look at this template, it's still the JSON format that you can take a look at. Here's our DB name, right? Here's our DB user. Here's our DB password. And the reason why it had us change the alphanumeric, because it only allowed this particular pattern, right? For our passwords right here. Sorry, here's the password. So allowed pattern is A through ZA and then Z0 to 9. So it's alphanumeric. Here's our root password, right? Settings. And then of course our mappings. And if I scroll down, you'll see the rest of the settings within this template. Now again, if you were to design this template manually, or just copy this template and throw it manually into the designer and create a stack, you'll get the same thing. Okay. So this is where you can deploy, how you would deploy a solution for you. Now quickly before I end this is change sets, right? You can create a change set. Once again, change sets are if you need to make some changes to this and deploy it again. So for example, if I were to click on create one, or maybe I'll demonstrate this later. For now, just leave it like this. Understand what is happening when you create a stack. Once the status is complete, I can go back to stacks, and then notice it says create completed. And at the bottom, I have all of these different tabs for this particular stack. So here's the overview, then I have the outputs, and here's the website URL. So if I were to click on this, I should be able to get my WordPress welcome blog, right? Perfect. See how easy it is to deploy WordPress on AWS using CloudFormation? Few steps, guys. That's it. So now I can, of course, continue on from here, and it's going to create my WordPress blog running on Amazon Web Service. Great. Let me close this because we're not going to create the website here. Just wanted to demonstrate. Let's go back to our CloudFormation. So this is our output, right? And then we have our resources. A web server is being used, and of course the web server security is being deployed with this security group. I have my events, and this is my event log. Make it bigger. So it gives you the time, status, type, logical ID, and then of course the status reasons as well. Here's our template. Once again, I can view and edit the template in Designer. So if I click on this link, it's going to take me back to the Designer, and I can of course change the template, or I can change any of these parameters and redeploy. So I can click on parameters, I can click on tags, stack policy. Here are the change sets, right? So if I need to create a change set for this stack, I could do so. And then my rollback triggers. Great. So congratulations, you've successfully deployed a WordPress blog using CloudFormation in a matter of minutes. So practice with this. Hope this helps. If you have any questions, post in the discussion area. I'll be glad to answer.
Let's now talk about security and scalability, which is now that our website is live and you see it, right? It's time to talk security and scalability. So AWS makes it easy to protect your infrastructure with security groups, key pairs, and basic firewall rules. Now, keeping the site secure is certainly essential, especially when it's open to the internet. So you want to be able to consider scalability in AWS, which allows your site to handle increased traffic with services like auto-scaling, load balancer, and other services. And cost, of course, is always a factor. We have a free tier account, right, that I've showed you, but I'm going to talk about avoiding unnecessary charges, tools like the AWS pricing calculator or CloudWatch alerts that you can set up. So if you want to have additional services that you want to use AWS, you can do so. So if you're just taking the first steps by learning key services in AWS, like deploying a website and understanding how to keep it secure and scalable, that's what you need to do, right? But this is just the start. AWS certainly offers dozens of other services that can help you build smarter, more powerful applications as you gain more experience. So if you're ready to keep learning, definitely explore AWS tutorials right here at ClayDesk. We have tons and tons of free courses that you can actually take. So your cloud journey starts now, and that's exactly where you need to be. Thanks for watching. My name is Syed. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know where you are in your learning journey. I'll see you guys in the next video.